Hello there, my friends. It is welcome to another shoe review day. How are you? It's Ashwin doing a face pop, trying to make that a signature aspect of my reviews. But really, as I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, I am not the star of the show. These beautiful shoes are. So this is a brand that I've talked about before, and I will talk to you about today, that I'm a huge fan of, that I think represents an incredible value proposition at the high end of the men's classic shoe wear market. This is putting one pair down, one shoe to kind of demonstrate and show you a little bit here, is a beautiful Shortwing Oxford with broguing along the throat here, as well as along the wingtip, in a olive green or Loden suede upper with a 180-degree Norwegian welt. You can see that beautiful welt around the base of the leather as it approaches the sole. A pitched heel, some people call these suicide heels, Cuban heels, woodsman heels. I just like to call them pitched heels. A very elegantly pitched heel. You can see right there. I can get it in focus. There we go. And this is a shoe made by the wonderfully talented Thanh from Hephaestus Shoemakers. So as I've mentioned before, Thanh has been a huge part of my shoe journey. I have been purchasing Hephaestus shoes for about a year and a half. I think he's been in the biz for about 3 to 4 years now. And I came into contact with his work through Michael Baldinger, who is a prominent member of the classic menswear and shoe forum and has an interest in emerging brands. And Hephaestus has come and stayed and created a space for itself. And Thanh is the single shoemaker behind Hephaestus. And so he is based out of Vietnam. I believe it's Hanoi, Vietnam. And he has been designing elegant classic menswear shoes, such as this beautiful pair, over the past several years, that have a bit of a flair to them, but fit well within the elegant classic menswear market. I own now 5 of his shoes. I own a split toe derby, that's a 2-eyelet derby with reverse stitching. I have my own design that I made of his, and then one other beautiful pair of his shoes that I'm a huge fan of. And I featured those previously in other videos, but I wanted to feature this makeup that I came to him with. I think some of you know that I have an increasing fascination with Norwegian welts. They seem to be kind of hot on the market these days. They take a fair bit of skill to execute well. Historically, Norwegian welts have been used for rugged wear, boots, as a means of waterproofing shoes. But for many years now, makers such as some of the Italian makers, Paolo Scafora, some of the Eastern European makers such as St. Crispin's have been using this welting style to demonstrate their skill in shoemaking. And so Thanh has begun to feature a Norwegian welt of similar quality, I would say, to some of the other makes out there. And I saw him put it on a chukka boot. So I came to him and said, well, what about doing a 180-degree Norwegian welt on a suede shortwing Oxford, which is what we see here. And so I chose everything on the shoe, including the color of the upper. He gave me options for what was available, and this green suede, which turns out to be almost a Loden green, olive green color. Chose a natural colored welt, chose a pitched heel. He calls this his sexy pitched heel. And chose a fiddleback waist. I'm going to give you a quick glance, but this is one of the highlights of this shoe, is the bottom. Boom. Quite a bottom. And for those of us who like sexy bottoms, not to excuse any puns or whatnot, this has got one for sure. Beautifully executed sole, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I wanted to show you this. This is built on his I believe his A1 last, using that 180-degree Norwegian welt, which goes essentially halfway around the shoe. that pitched tapered heel, which you can see tapers both at the back of the heel block. It's fairly smart and well corrected. There's a little step off here, but it's well executed. And then also a view of a beautiful taper here. He does use the fudge wheel to add some details to the top of that heel block, which I think is really nice. He has this nice transition with a ornamental nail and this kind of step off between the rest of the sole. He's got a very narrow sole with a hidden channel stitch here. You can see it's a blind waist with this Norwegian welt. I imagine that this is primarily stitched down. The rest may be fastened via other methods. He's got some toe nails here instead of a toe plate that I suggested we do. Some ornamental nails along the waist and this beautiful fiddleback waist, and a notably unique heel block with this almost scalloped part of the heel block, which I think he calls his butterfly heel. I don't believe that I asked for it, but he put it on here and I really like it. It adds to the flair of this shoe. So, you know, whereas short wings historically have been used in men's dress shoes in business settings and similar, the use of the upper here, the use of a suede material, you can also imagine use a chamois or a rough out leather, depending on the quality and the styling you wish. But the suede makes this a little bit more of a smart casual shoe. Certainly the Norwegian welt is a little less formal as well as the color choice with a natural edge dressing compared to a black edge dressing. So, I mean, I work in a field where smart casual, and I think most of us now work in fields where smart casual shoes are becoming the norm rather than much more traditional classic men's shoes. And Thanh executes this pattern extremely well, in my opinion. 5 eyelets here. You can see the tapering of the eyelets towards the top. The broguing pattern's really lovely. The stitch density, you know, I know that there's others such as John Schmleek and others who think a lot about stitch density, but you know, it's hard for me to say in terms of the stitch density and the others, other than saying that this is executed very well, very sharply done. The broguing is accurate, although there, you know, are some minor deficiencies. You can see this is maybe a little off center, but nothing that sort of sticks out as egregious by any means. He's got this beautiful kind of edge sort of finish to the brogued parts here, and the suede is beautiful. You can see the back heel cap here, and as I mentioned, the heel block with the taper, really just beautiful. And again, I want to show this beautiful sole because this is one that is one of the best that I've seen personally. It's an extremely narrow fiddleback waist. You can see how the light plays off of the sole. It'll be sad to see this get some wear, but at the same time, this is a shoe that deserves to be worn. And just the profile of this shoe, it's got this slightly tapered nose here, maybe a little bit of a chisel there, but generally a nice kind of almond-shaped last here. The leather upper is really beautifully executed. Stitch density is great down here. You know, it's a very tight stitch density. The Norwegian welt is executed to a level that I think is high and comparable to other shoes that I have in this segment, such as St. Crispin's, Bontoni, October 10th, that type of level here. You can see it's a little less ornamental than some of the other stitch density, or sorry, some of the other welts that I've seen. But all in all, just a beautifully executed shoe. One of my favorites, honestly, from Thanh, and maybe one of my favorites in my collection, just because it is so well executed. His shoes offer an incredible value proposition for the upper end of the classic menswear market. He does all his work out of Vietnam, and his shoes range in price between maybe in the mid 300s, low 300s, all the way up to $600 or $700. He uses suedes, Italian and other European, French tanneries in terms of calf leather, and he even has Shinky cordovan leathers available to him. And I'm excited to have one of those pairs made up by him to see how he pulls off a cordovan in terms of execution. Just some other finishing things to kind of notice on the heel block. You can see the little bit of the painting, the beautiful edge painting done to the heel block, just little finishes along with the nails that you can see are just done so well. So if I can try to show that, you can see that finish there. It's a different color than both the natural edge finish or finish here. So just some beautifully executed details along with that, the detailing here at the edge of the heel block that I think are just elevate this shoe to artwork. And as I mentioned, this is a type of leather that will work well in a number of settings. Certainly here in the Northwest, this is something that could be considered available to dress up, but I think smart casual wear defines it well. So here's another last look at this beautiful shoe. And I'm going to put up two shoes again for you here, just one more time to try to give you a perspective here. I'm going to pull back a little bit just so you guys can see it again. These are his more standard shoe trees. You can see them in there. Your heel blocks. I got a little scuffing on the leather that I'll brush out with some with a suede brush. And again, just a beautiful heel block here. So Hephaestus Shoemaker Shortwing Suede upper 180 Norwegian welt with natural edge trim dressing, a pitched Cuban heel, and a beautiful fiddleback waist on a natural colored sole, done to near perfection. So I hope you guys enjoy this review. I hope you found it informative. Just giving you a few last highlights and details of this shoe. And if you have any questions or so, feel free to leave them in the comments. And I hope to see you guys soon. Take care. Have a good one.